Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that further proceedings on the roll call be dispensed with and the Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent members.
To that motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The Secretary will close the roll. Members, please stand for the prayer. Today's chaplain is our Senate chaplain, Pastor Mike Smith of Redeeming Love Church in Maplewood. And following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, Senators. I've got two notices I need to bring to your attention before I pray. The first notice is this. All ice fishing houses must be off the lake before July 4th this year. So if you could pass that information on to your districts, we'd appreciate it. The second one's more serious. Tomorrow is the National Day of Prayer. And every year we have people that gather in the front of the Capitol, not for any political agenda, but just to pray for all of you. And you are invited, as well as the House is invited to come and join us. And at some point in the program, between 12 and 1, I will be praying for all of our legislatures. So thank you for letting me share that. I've shared this scripture before, but I think it's so important, again, for us to hear it, from Isaiah 43. This is what the Lord says, who created you. Do not be afraid. I've redeemed you. I've called you by name, and you are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you'll not be burned. For I am the Lord your God, your Savior. So forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing, and it springs up. I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Even I am the one who blots out your transgressions for my own sake. And listen, he says, and I remember them no more. So Lord, today as we stand in this place, sometimes we know the challenges and struggles in life and in leadership can seem overwhelming. But Lord, we believe in the results of prayer and blessing. And that it is more than a concept, but it's a powerful reality. So I pray that today we would know that we can bring our struggles and striving to you. I pray that we would know we can bring our troubles and trials to you. I pray that we would all know that we can bring problems and the pressures that we face to you. May we know that you're our strength and a present help in the time of trouble. Lord, may we know that you are our peace. And at times when we feel over our heads, may we lift up our heads and trust in you. And I pray that we would know that you would never leave us or forsake us. So Lord, may we never give up on our dreams. May we never stop hoping. May we never stop searching for new horizons with renewed expectations. And Lord, I pray that especially in the times when we're frustrated, especially in the times of conflict, may we strive to be forgiving and merciful. And Lord, we know you will not forget us. May we not forget you. You long to draw us close. So Lord, being completely convinced of the power of blessing, I say bless our senators. Bless our House of Representatives. I pray that you bless their families, their staff. May the atmosphere of this place be filled with the reality of your goodness that would bring profound change in our hearts. So from Baudette to Blue Earth, from Pine City to Pipestone, we say, God bless Minnesota. Amen.
The Secretary will take the roll.
Senators Abler, Anderson, Bach, Benson, Bigham, Carlson, Chamberlain, Champion, Clausen, Coleman, Swazinski, Dames, Dibble, Dornick, Draheim, Duckworth, Dietzick, Eaton, Eichhorn, Eakin, Fate, Friends, Gazelka, Goggin, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Ingebrigtsen, Isaacson, Jasinski, Johnson, Johnson, Stewart, Kent, Kiffmeyer, Klein, Coran, Kunish, Lang, Latz, Limmer, Lopez, Frenzen, Marty, Matthews, McEwen, Miller, Murphy, Nelson, Newman, Newton, Osmic, Pappas, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rest, Rosen, Rude, Senjum, Tomasoni, Torres, Rayutke, Weber, Westrom, Uyghur, Wickland.
Pursuant to Rule 14.1, the following members intend to vote under Rule 40.7. Senators Anderson, Coleman, Swedzinski, Eaton, Gazelka, Goggin, Howe, Kent, Latz, Limmer, Marty, Newton, Pappas, Rest, Tomasoni, Torres, Ray, and Wickland. A quorum is present. Beginning under the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House has acceded to the request of the Senate for an appointment of a conference committee consisting of 5 members of the House on the amendments adopted by the House of the following Senate file. Senate File Number 4062, a bill for an act relating to state government appropriating money for environment and natural resources and tourism. There has been appointed as such committee on the part of the House Hansen R., Wozlowick, Morrison, Lippert, and Heinzman. Senate File Number 4062 is herewith returned to the Senate. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
No action is required. The Secretary will read the next message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following Senate file as amended by the House, in which the amendments, the concurrence of the Senate is respectfully requested. Senate File Number 4410, a bill for an act relating to health and human services. Senate File Number 4410 is herewith returned to the Senate. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Senator Abler.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I appreciate the work on the other body. It turns out that actually they had a little different point of view and a way to tackle the challenges before us. So even though the differences are slight, I would like to move that the Senate do not concur, shockingly, in the amendments by the House to Senate File 4410, and that a conference committee of at least 5 members be appointed by the Subcommittee on Conference Committees on the part of the Senate to act with a like conference committee appointed on the part of the House. Thank you.
To that motion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The Secretary will read the next message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House refuses to concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 4293, a bill for an act relating to state government appropriating money for certain government agencies and pension plans, allowing certain contracts. The House respectfully requests a conference committee of 5 members be appointed thereon. Nelson N., Hornstein, Murphy, Cagle, and Nash have been appointed as such committee on the part of the House. House File Number 4293 is herewith transmitted to the Senate with the request that the Senate appoint a like committee. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Senator Kiffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate accede to the request of the House for a conference committee on House File 4293, and that a conference committee of 5 members be appointed by the Subcommittee on Conference Committees on the part of the Senate to act with a like conference committee appointed on the part of the House.
To that motion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The Secretary will read the next message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House refuses to concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 4366, a bill for an act relating to state government establishing agricultural grant programs, making policy and technical changes to agricultural and animal health provisions. The House respectfully requests that a conference committee of 5 members be appointed thereon. Sundin, Hausman, Howard, Vang, and Tice have been appointed as such committee on the part of the House. House File Number 4366 is herewith transmitted to the Senate with the request that the Senate appoint a like committee. Patrick D. Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate accede to the request of the House on House File 4366 and that a conference committee of 5 members be appointed by the Senate.
To that motion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed, say nay. The motion does prevail. We move now to the 8th order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills. The Senate bills on today's introduction calendar are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Moving to the 9th order of business, motions and resolutions. We will adopt the author's motion in one motion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bill made special orders for immediate consideration. Members, the bill up is House File 3872.
Members, the bill today is House File 3872, number 100 on special orders. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I want to begin by saying it has been an absolute honor to serve as the Vice Chair to Senator Tomassoni on the Higher Education Committee this year, to be able to be there and be his voice. And I know many people have been coming to me asking about things, but I just want to reaffirm to everyone that Senator Tomassoni has been the chair. We have done everything through him, and I believe we will continue to do that through any conference committee as well. So I'm happy to transfer any messages, but please know Senator Tomassoni is the chair of the committee, and I am serving as his voice. Members, this bill is focused in an area that we have been talking about for a while now, and that's public safety and a shortage of police officers. And so we focused an attention on trying to recruit new people to go to our institutions around the state to be trained to be law enforcement officers. Hopefully, we will be reaching into communities that are in need, and so that folks from those communities will have an opportunity to get that help, to get into school, to get the training, so that they can go back to their own communities to serve as those law enforcement officers. So the kind of the big provisions there is we have $3.7 million that will go to a grant for students pursuing law enforcement degrees, and another $10 million in workforce development scholarships also focused around law enforcement. And these are available to all of the institutions around the state that do this training. We also have some provisions, a youth skills path program, allowing kids in high school to look at the pathway into manufacturing or construction, a Learn to Earn coalition, increased funding to underrepresented student teacher grant, some increased funding for MICC, and some provisions for public safety increases for the University of Minnesota, and an increase for the NRRI program. We have a couple of policy provisions in the bill as well. Again, a policy around this establishment of the new grant for law enforcement, and another policy piece around this skills path that I talked about for our youth. We have another provision in the bill looking to help our older learners who are looking for new training. We know that many of them do that online, and so we are looking to create some new policy to allow them the opportunity to use the scholarships and grants offered by the state so that they can get tuition assistance as well. We have a provision in here from Senator Putnam that looks to help not just look at scores for admission into college, but the whole person. And I'm really glad that he reached out and worked with Senator Tomassoni. I think this is a great provision in the bill. We have another provision. We all know about the Board of Regents. We probably are very unaware that there is a board very similar for Min State. And there's a commission that helps to bring forward candidates for that board. Unfortunately, right now, no one sits on that commission, and it hasn't been used for a long time. So we're eliminating that commission and putting in new requirements for the governor, who will just then appoint members to that board for Min State. And last, Senator Tomassoni provision, increasing funding out of the Permanent University Fund to NRRI, the National Resources Research Institute, doubling that fund, and then also opening up more options for classes that students can take. This will increase vastly the number of students who should be able to participate in that program. And members, with that, that's a very brief synopsis of what is in the bill. I'm happy to stand for any questions that the members may have.
Discussion and amendments to House File 3872. Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I begin my comments, I do want to acknowledge and thank both Senator Rarick and Senator Tomassoni. This was a difficult thing to navigate, but it's easy to do good work with good people. So I appreciate both of their leadership and their coordination and their responsiveness to us and our concerns. Now, that being said, this bill is imperfect, as you would expect it to be. But I think in order to appreciate it, we have to think a little bit about who it's supposed to serve and what it actually does. Now, today's post-secondary student, now whether that's a four-year college student, a two-year college student, or a person in a credentialing program who's just trying to get a job, that's not who we often think it used to be. Today's post-secondary student is not biding their time till they go backpack in Europe. They're not subsisting on ramen and natural light because it's fun. They're too busy paying bills to play beer pong. That's today's post-secondary student. This bill was to serve strivers. Today's post-secondary student is essentially the working poor. Close to 30% of our college students these days, of our post-secondary students, are parents, and so many of them are working parents. That's who this bill is meant to serve. The striver who's trying to do better. And at no time in our history has that been more important. We talk so much about our concerns about workforce development. We've got people, we've got jobs. What we don't have is the connection between the two, and that's what post-secondary education provides. And given the economic struggles, the social struggles that we're dealing with right now, at no time has a post-secondary degree or some kind of credentialing been more important than it is today. Now, let's be clear, this bill does some great things to try to serve those populations and to try to fulfill that need. I think all of us agree that the investment in workforce development is excellent and necessary, and in particular when it comes to law enforcement. I think we all appreciate that investment in a great deal. And again, I'm thankful that we have an opportunity now to rethink how we do developmental education so that people who are new to college, who are new to post-secondary education, can have all the support and the opportunities they need. But this bill neglects to support Minnesota State and provide the resources to support the students who are there. This bill neglects to truly fund the University of Minnesota's investment in public safety. It's 2% of what they asked for public safety at the U. And this bill neglects to make college more affordable by investing in or altering how we do the state grant that benefits every Minnesotan. Now, members, realize that we have negative migration all throughout Minnesota. Every state, every political entity with which we border takes more Minnesotan students than we get from them. Ask yourself why that is, why our talent and our future is leaving the state. Members, it's because we have not invested in higher education, in post-secondary education, to the extent that we must. Now, I think it's often quite easy to complain about a bill, especially an omnibus bill, for what's not in it. I understand that. And this bill had a very small amount of money to spend. But where we spent it could have been better. This isn't just an issue of what's not there. I completely understand that we had small resources to deal with. But those resources do not demonstrate that we have heard young people, that we have prioritized their struggles. I think this bill can and should be better. But again, I thank the members of the committee for all the work that we've done this session.
Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, members, over the last year and a half, everyone has experienced a lot of change. And one of those changes is our college students that were abruptly told to go online with their classes. In many cases, moved back home from the dorms that they had paid rent for, not knowing when they'd get to go back to college. And initially, everybody realized that we had to figure out what was going on. How do we best deal with the pandemic and other changes in society? But online classes were a big change for everybody, every student. Silver lining, I think there's been a lot of improvements in online training, online education, online meetings through Zoom that even many of us take part in. But a lot of students decided to take online courses rather than have to move back to the dorms or their apartments in the college town and find out that they might have to leave a month later if quarantines were imposed. And so I know many students that have just went to online classes as part of their college curriculums. A lot of colleges, a lot of education institutions have improved their online offerings and opportunities, making what was a traditional classroom a lot more nimble with online education. And so members, but the one issue that really I kept hearing about from college students, and many people are frustrated over, is the ability to take online classes or go to college classes and also have a vaccine mandate. And so, members, I offer the A6 amendment, Mr. President.
Senator Western moves the A6 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Western moves to amend House File number 3872 as follows, page 19 after line 5, insert. This is the A6 amendment.
To the A6 amendment, Senator
Mr.
Western.
President, members, this just clarifies and it stays consistent with current state law that allows students a conscientious objection to mandates on vaccines that otherwise might be required by state law or a college institution. And so this expands, that indicates students that have either a natural immunity or a conscientious objection to a vaccine, whether it's measles, mumps, or other vaccines, which has been in state law for a long time. We have not deprived kids, students, of their college education that's funded by the taxpayers. And so this just updates the state statute to make it consistent with what's been in practice for a long time in the state of Minnesota, recognizes a natural immunity, but also a conscientious objection, and the college cannot use that as a way to restrict students from their college education, even online education. And many of you have heard some of the same stories from college students. And so I think I would urge your support of this amendment to just update and make sure our state law stays consistent and we don't deprive college students, which is being funded by the taxpayers in many cases, of their college education or their opportunity for an education, even an online education. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm going to go to the author of the bill first, Senator Klein. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Westrom, I appreciate the amendment. But unfortunately, as this bill was drafted, Mr. President, I'm going to have to ask that it be ruled not germane to 35.2. It does expand the bill. This has a lot to do with health care, and it's also drafted to Section 135, which is not contained in this bill.
Senator Rarick raises to a point of order under germaneness under Section 35.2 that the Westrom A6 amendment is not germane to the bill. For discussion to the germaneness of the amendment, Senator Klein.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I appreciate Senator Rarick raising the point of order. That was the point I was going to rise to make. I also want to point out that both Senator Rarick and myself waited to assert a point of order until the Speaker had finished his thoughts about the amendment, which I think is the collegial way to foster debate in this institution and something that I hope we can all adhere to without interrupting other senators.
Further further advice to the point of germaneness? Senator Westrom.
Mr. President, advice. Mr. President, this is an important topic for us to discuss, but I realize upon further review of the bill, this would be expanding to a different statute. And at this point, Mr. President, I would withdraw the amendment and not pursue a decision by you.
Senator Westrom withdraws the A6 amendment. Further discussion on amendments to the bill. Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, I think we all recognize that Minnesota has a long history of valuing and investing in higher education by supporting the University of Minnesota, the Minnesota State System, and also the Minnesota Student Grant Program. And yet, when you look through this bill, those three items are missing. There's no allocation, basically, for any of those three vital pieces of our higher education system in Minnesota. I believe the citizens of Minnesota understand the value of attaining a higher education degree, which leads to a better life for themselves and their families. Minnesota ranks second nationally in the percentage of population between the ages of 25 and 64 with an associate's degree or higher. That's over 50% of the population in Minnesota. We're 1 percentage point behind the state of Massachusetts. Minnesota's higher education institutions play an essential role in growing Minnesota's economy and opening doors of opportunity for Minnesotans. We rely on higher education to train a skilled workforce, which sets Minnesota apart as an economic leader and home to 18 Fortune 500 companies. We rely upon the research conducted in our institutions to find solutions not only for our state, but worldwide. In many ways, the future of Minnesota is tied to our colleges, universities, and our students, requiring a consistent investment by the state. So what are the investments being proposed that we're discussing here today? Well, I believe the focus of the bill is on workforce development. 95% of the total supplemental fiscal allocation is tied to 5 programs. The overall fiscal investment is narrow, and it falls short in meeting the overall needs of students and our higher education institutions. The bill does not include funding for the Minnesota State Grant Program, the University of Minnesota, and Minnesota State institutions, nor does it support the governor's supplemental budget targets. Now, Senator Rarick, in his opening comments, indicated the focus of the bill is public safety. But the committee ignored the University of Minnesota request for public safety enhancements when public safety is a priority for my colleagues across the aisle and also for our caucus. There was an allocation, but it was very small, came nowhere close to what the needs were for the university. One positive thing in the bill, and there are positive things, Article 3 expands the Minnesota Higher Education Facilities Authority. That authority assists higher education institutions in bonding projects, capital projects, and that's being expanded into the healthcare area. So this could help fund additional mental health facilities, hospitals, those needs, and I think that's a real positive movement. Very positive. But overall, the bill falls short in making key investments in our higher education institutions and students. Investments in the student grant program, increased funding for improving student services, and efforts to reduce the cost of attendance in our higher education institutions are missing from the bill. Investments in higher education today will be realized in Minnesota's future. at a time when Minnesota higher education institutions and students need assistance while recovering from COVID, and we have a $9 billion budget surplus, we're falling short. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion and amendment to House File 3872. Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Mr. President, if you'll indulge me for a couple moments. I am, in this business. I've been a college professor for 30 years, so I do think I have some perspective to offer. And in the 30 years that I've been teaching in college, I have never seen such a great crisis in students themselves. I was glad to hear Senator Westrum's comments earlier, because they acknowledge the fact that young people are struggling and struggling hard. This past semester in the fall, I gave more Fs than I have in 30 years of teaching. And it wasn't because people weren't doing well, it's because they weren't showing up at all. Friends, members, it costs $65,000 a year to go to the school that I teach. And students just didn't come to class because they were too depressed, because they were simply unable to get out of bed. And they resist my efforts to reach out to them and to help them. They can't help themselves enough for us to help them. That's what we are facing right now. And when you think about the crisis of mental health in our institutions right now, higher ed at all different levels, the lack of supports that we have available for students as they struggle with these issues, and the absence of any attention to that concern in this bill, we have to rethink what we're doing here. So members, I offer the A3 amendment.
Senator Putnam moves the A3 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Putnam moves to amend House File number 3872 as follows, page 4 after line 11. Insert this is the A3 amendment.
To the A3 amendment, Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm going to talk fast before you call me out of order, or someone else does, because it is out of order. The point that I want to make is what this does is this hires counselors. This requires Minnesota State to hire counselors at all their institutions. And one quick point that I'd like to make before I withdraw the amendment, if we're cool about that, is that to require every institution in Min-State to have one counselor. Think about that. Every institution in Minnesota State to have just one counselor and have a ratio of one counselor to 750 students, those that already do, would require the state of Minnesota to hire 70 people. That should blow your mind. That should really point your attention to what we are not attending to right now and what we are not taking care of. This bill would require and give resources for that funding, but obviously it is out of balance. So, Mr. President, I withdraw the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Putnam. Senator Putnam withdraws the A3 amendment. Before we go forward, I think after yesterday's event, as I will call it, I think there is a bit more patience when you're explaining an amendment and you know it's not going to be probably in order. I think you will find there will be at least a little bit of patience. However, the patience does come with a certain timeline on it. And I think if both sides understand that, I think we could all get through this bill and get through the rest of the session more peacefully. That being said, Senator Putnam, your remarks leading up to the amendment were perfectly appropriate. You brought to the floor of the Senate your background, your experience, absolutely nothing wrong. So if people are trying to learn where the line is, I thought those remarks are perfectly appropriate. Seeing the amendment is no longer before the body, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, as we know, and we heard so beautifully articulated just earlier to us, the college students of today are, many of them, the working poor of our state. Many of them are parents. They're working jobs. They're trying to put themselves through school and taking on a lot while they're doing it. And that, colleagues, is why I would like to bring the A1 amendment.
Senator McEwen moves the A1 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator McEwen moves to amend House File Number 3872 as follows, page 2, line 9, delete. This is the A1 amendment.
To the A1 amendment, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this provides an allocation for the Hunger Free Campus program. Back in 2018, 2019, just a couple years ago, a survey was done of almost 10,000 students from 25 two-year and 3 4-year colleges in Minnesota, and their responses were really something. The responses indicated that 37% of them were food insecure in the last 30 days. 48% were housing insecure in the previous year, and 18% of them were actually experiencing homelessness at some point during that previous year. So this just really goes to what we're talking about when we want to support our students, the students of our state. This is just basic safety net stuff. Making sure that people have food to eat so that they can continue on with the hard work they're doing at school and in their lives, supporting their families, supporting themselves as they move forward. So, colleagues, I ask for your support on the A1 amendment. Thank you.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. And this one is, it moves money around for this. And we had this discussion in our committee, but at this time, I would ask that members would not support this amendment. We want it to, the way Chair Tomassoni is bringing it out, with the way he dispersed the funds, so I would ask that we not move any funds around and vote no on this amendment.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask for a roll call on this amendment, please.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Any further discussion to the A1 amendment? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll in the A1 amendment. Calling Senator Kunish to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Swedzinski votes aye.
Sodzinski votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Kent votes aye.
Kent votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Marty votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
Pappas votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kunish.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Call on Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Tomassoni votes no.
Tomassoni votes no, nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes no.
Anderson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes no.
Coleman votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes no.
Gazelka votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes no.
Goggin votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes no.
Hall votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Limmer votes no.
Limmer votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lang votes no.
Lang votes nay. All members having voted, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 32 ayes and 35 nays, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Further amendments and discussion to House File 3872. Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as most members know, I represent southeast and northeast Minneapolis, Cedar Riverside, and Seward neighborhoods around the University of Minnesota campus. So a lot of the people that I hear from on a daily basis are university students. I have both the University of Minnesota and Augsburg, and so I do spend a lot of time talking to students. And I also occasionally hear from their parents, and many of their parents are in districts throughout the state, not just my district, since they are both major universities. And what I am hearing about from those parents and from those students is the cost of tuition. They are concerned that they can't afford the cost of tuition, and they want to see more money into the state grant program. I am hearing about housing and the ability to find affordable housing, and then when they get into some of the larger apartment buildings, how hard it is to get a hold of management when they have concerns. And I also hear about public safety. They are concerned, parents have called me because they are concerned and are wondering, are their students safe? Are their children safe? We spent a lot of time this year talking about public safety and the need for public safety, and I keep hearing how important public safety is to this body. There are a lot of good things in the bill. I appreciate the money to increase teachers of color, but the bill has $454,000 for public safety, if I am reading the spreadsheet correct. That's not a lot of money. That'll cover maybe 10 additional officers and some security infrastructure employees. Both of those are needed, and we need the law enforcement there. We need their technology backup and staff to do the technology, but safety is more than just those officers. Those officers also need technology to back them up, and they also need help with prevention. The U of M came in with a $100 million request. That's a lot of money for public safety. The bill funds less than 0.5% of their request. And their request is some very basic things. Again, this is what I'm hearing from parents across the state, that they want their kids to be safe. And what I'm hearing from the students is they want lighting at bus stops. They want more lighting across campus so they feel safe walking to campus. If you've been there, you know, it's a large institution. To go from the West Bank to the East Bank, to take a bus to classes over in St. Paul, in the Minneapolis campus, and the St. Paul campus is large. And this $100 million funding isn't just for the Minneapolis and St. Paul campus. It's also for Duluth, it's also for Crookston, it's also for Morris. It's across the system. Students want to feel safe. They want to, classes sometimes go late, they're studying at the libraries late. They want lighting at those bus stops. They want panic buttons across campus so they can hit them. Those are some of the requests in the U of M's bill. They also ask for some additional, you know, those code blue additions, which are the panic buttons, or an alert system that is both internal so that they can monitor parking buildings, they can monitor the campus. They've got money for what they call end-of-life security equipment, and that is the equipment that the manufacturer is no longer servicing, but they feel they can still, you know, use it for a few more years, and so, you know, basically they need to duct tape it together, so they're asking for additional money for that. They're asking for additional security people for in the buildings across campus. So they have police that handle the outside, and they have security officers in the buildings. They want card readers for in the building, so when you're in the library late at night, they know who is coming and going, and they can follow those. This is what students and their parents from your districts are asking. They want their kids to be safe. So with that, Mr. President, I have the A50 amendment.
Senator Dietzich moves the A5050 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Dietzich moves to amend House File Number 3872 as follows. Page 2, line 9, delete. This is the A50 amendment.
To the A50 amendment, Senator Dietzich.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the amendment doesn't fully fund the U of M requests because there's not $100 million in the bill to move, but it does move $1.5 million from other programs and moves it towards public safety. It takes money from the Skills Path program, and why I took the money from that is the Commissioner of Labor and Industry, Commissioner Robertson, has suggested that there are current programs already in place, and we don't really need this new program. This is a new program. It's to engage young people through career exposure and career readiness, and I think that is a very laudable goal. But we already have programs. There's the LEAP program, there's the Growing Their Youth Skills Training Program, and Expanding Dual Training Pipeline that already have money in it. It might have been easier and better rather than doing a new program to just put more money into this program, and so I take the money from that program. And then Senator Jasinski, I apologize, but I am taking money from the Owatonna Learn to Earn program that's in the bill. I've had Learn to Earn programs in the past, and they've always been funded through the jobs program. So I'm a little confused why this money for just one Owatonna Learn to Earn coalition is in this bill when there are, I know Minneapolis has a Learn to Earn program, I believe Rochester had a Learn to Earn program, and they've always been funded through the jobs bill. So I am taking that money and moving it to add to the public safety for students across the U system. It includes lighting that they want, it would include camera, and it would include some of the items that the U listed that they need to help our students feel safe, to give the parents from your district the security that their students are safe on U of M campus. And Mr. President, I request a roll call.
Roll call is requested. Roll call granted. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. First, I want to point to the fact that Yep, $454,000 this year. There's $4.7 million in the tails for the public safety area that the U has requested. In the description, you know, we heard a lot of what they're asking for is infrastructure at their buildings. And our committee believed that should be part of a bonding request, that if we're going to put money into the university, we'd prefer it going towards, you know, grants for the students, things of that nature. We did give them some so that they can begin some of this work, but we felt it was a little more appropriate. But let's look back. When we talk about we're not getting to their request, understand that when the university came to the legislature, they were asking for nearly $1 billion in funding through higher education and through capital investment. That dwarfed what Min State was requesting. Min State didn't ask for anything in this area. Their requests in this area always come through capital investment. So with that, and also because we're taking money from other areas, trying to move it around, I would request that members vote no on this amendment.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I'm correct, even with the $4 million in the tails, that still represents just 4% of what the university asked for. I'm looking at the university's request, and there is quite a bit in their request that is, in fact, capital investment, but there's quite a bit that relates, as my colleague Senator Dietzig noted, simply to public safety upgrades, whether it's for full-time employees or additional security officers. I just want to add a short insight into what it's like to spend time at the University of Minnesota at any one of the 4 campuses. I have been at all 4 campuses late at night. It's scary, and I'm a older, confident woman with a car. I often worry about my students. I have taught until 9:30 every semester for the last 20 years, and oftentimes my students and I will walk to cars together. You might say, well, they have escorts on campus, which they do, but oftentimes we have to wait a half hour for one to show up. That is a true experience, and it has happened to me and my students several times. So I think the university is doing a great job. Again, I've taught at Duluth, Crookston, Morris, Rochester, and the University of Minnesota, so I think I should have said 5 campuses. And I would very much support Senator Dietzig's small investment as indicated by her amendment. And I would encourage anybody who has a child at any one of the university campuses, a friend, or simply cares about the safety of our students to vote yes as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. The number the U is requesting is a large amount. We're not giving them the entire amount here, but they are a major institution. They are a major university. They are an economic engine for our state. He wasn't a constituent of mine, but he used to live in my district and went to the U, graduated from the U, I believe in engineering, and continued to work at the U and started a little company in a garage in my district. He started Medtronics. The U is creating future Medtronics. They are training our doctors, they are training our veterinarians, they are doing testing they're testing about 1,800 birds a week at the Wilmer facility on bird flu. They are a major resource for our state. So of course they have a large ask, but they also help the state. And what this bill does is it does provide services to students. It provides safety. It gives their parents from your districts a peace of mind that they are safe when they are leaving campus and class at 9:30 at night. Many of them do take buses, many of them do bike in my area, and so they want to feel safe. They have asked for this additional lighting. They have asked for these call buttons. And I think this is what we can do. Again, we have heard about how important safety is and public safety is in this body. Minneapolis, The Minneapolis campus of the University of Minnesota has their own police force. They partner with Minneapolis, but as we've all heard, both Minneapolis and St. Paul are short officers. So both the Minneapolis campus and the St. Paul campus, when they are dealing with situations, they are working with Minneapolis and St. Paul police officers we are short officers. We're short officers. There's money in this bill for more training for more officers. So this is about providing that safety and that peace of mind for those parents, so I ask for a green vote.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. And to that point about officers, the University of Minnesota has long operated in cooperation with the Minneapolis Police Department, and that is exactly why we're increasing the funding to get more people to go to school to become law enforcement officers. We believe it is far more appropriate for Minneapolis to be employing the officers rather than for the University of Minnesota, and they can continue that partnership. And that is where we were going with this and why we want to see more people getting into law enforcement. And instead of seeing the University of Minnesota competing with other agencies for law enforcement officers, they should be cooperating with our current law enforcement agencies.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to emphasize again what Senator Dietzig is talking about. Much of the money included in their request would in fact support not just officers, but support personnel, panic buttons, those kinds of things that we wouldn't really, I wouldn't consider to be capital investment. And I also want to just state again, the University of Minnesota is not just Minneapolis, St. Paul, West Bank campus. It is Duluth, it is Crookston, it is Morris, and it is Rochester. And my daughter went to Duluth. I worried about her every single time. She was working late. I'm sure others with children at these campuses have the same concerns. So whether we're talking about our children, our faculty, the thousands of people who work at the university just as staff, custodians, support staff, et cetera. I think this is an important investment, and I very much would encourage everybody, regardless of your party affiliation, but everybody who values the University of Minnesota and the products and its people to vote yes. Thank you, Senator Dietzig, for proposing this, and thank you, Mr.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in opposition of the A50 amendment, taking the money from the Learn to Earn program. This is a joint venture between the whole community, the high school, the Riverland Technical College, and many, many businesses that have worked very hard for this program. In fact, right now, the new high school is being built in Otana. A local federated insurance has donated $20 million to a high school. I would ask any community to match that. That's a great investment in the community. President Moholtra has talked about how a community college should be the catalyst of the community. What this will do will allow investment in the high school to get people engaged, to retool to meet the workforce needs in Otana. So to take it out of this bill, I do not stand in favor. So thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. This will be the last time on this issue. And Senator Jasinski, as I said, I support Learn to Earn programs, but there were other Learn to Earn programs also that in bills that are not funded in this bill or the jobs bill. And so I think they do great work, but I think they should be funded. All of them should be funded because all of our kids need those types of programs, and they should be funded in the jobs bill. So again, thank you, and I urge a green vote on this amendment.
Senator Ingebretson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the author of the bill, Senator Rarick, stand for a question?
Senator Rarick will yield. Senator Ingebretson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Rarick, Subdivision 3 Skills Path and Grant Program. Can you explain that a little bit better to me than what it says in the bill here? I'm not on the committee, so I'm not quite understanding what that is. Because I think part of her amendment, if I'm correct here, is taking that money and putting it towards public safety.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebretson, this is a provision looking to help encourage schools to invest so that students have the ability to get into, whether it's manufacturing, construction, at the high school level, to be exposed to those trades. So they think about that and get the training they need if they want to move in that direction. I know we have that right now currently in another form, and they can get high school credit. This is looking to not just expand on it, but this is more geared at helping schools tool up and provide the program in the skills youth training.
Senator Ingebretson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for that. Senator Dietzig, would Senator Dietzig yield?
She will yield. Senator Ingebretson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, obviously, I think you're hitting the button of public safety here today, and on the universities, and I'm wondering, because I know part of the university is certainly in your district, and I'm wondering, do you have any crime stats at all that you could share with us? I don't know if I've seen any just on the university, on the campuses at all, if that's been on an increase like it has been off campus.
Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Senator Ingebretson, for that question. I can look the stats up very quickly. I know some of the area that is often overlapped between the U and the 2nd Precinct in my district, there has been an uptick. Marcy Holmes neighborhood, Dinkintown neighborhood, and on the U campus there's been an uptick. And part of the reasoning is because criminals now know that students have expensive iPhones, they have iPads, and cell phones, and so they have become a target in more recent years. And they are also know that they are late at night out walking around because they are taking the bus or biking in my district to or from campus. And so I can look them up and share them with you, but there has been a slight uptick.
Senator Ingebretson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just final comment here. Like everybody in here, we've had robust discussion on public safety, especially in the Twin Cities area. Not so much, I don't think, Senator Dietzig on the University of Morris, University of Minnesota Morris. I don't know that there's a real uptick there, but I would expect there is here. And members, I think the author of the amendment is correct in saying that a lot of rural folks are questioning and they're saying they're not going to send their kids to the University of Minnesota because of the crime. Not so much on the university campus itself, but just crime in general. So once again, I think we've kind of reminded ourselves what we're up against when we're talking about public safety, and I'm a little indifferent with regards to this. I think this is probably more of a priority than the skills path, but I'm not quite sure exactly where I'm going to go here yet, but nevertheless, thank you for the discussion.
Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll on the A50 amendment. I call on Senator Kunish to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Swedzinski votes aye.
Swedzinski votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Kent votes aye.
Kent votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Marty votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
Pappas votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Kunish.
And Senator Lopez Franson votes aye.
Lopez Franson votes aye. Calling Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Tomassoni votes no.
Tomassoni votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes no.
Anderson votes no. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes no.
Coleman votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes no.
Gazelka votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes no.
Goggin votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes no.
Howell votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Benson votes no.
Benson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes no.
Lang votes nay. Senator Jasinski. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Limmer votes yes.
Limmer votes yes. Yay. All members having voted, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 34 nays, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer the A10 amendment.
Senator Clausen moves the A10 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Clausen moves to amend House File Number 3872 as follows. Page 26, after line 13, insert. This is the A10 amendment.
To the A10 amendment, Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has to do with the OATANA Learn to Earn program. And just a few minutes ago, Senator Jasinski explained the program, so I don't have to say too much about it. I'm on the bill. I support this initiative. It's a workforce development. The thing I really like about it, I think it's got some potential to serve as a blueprint for other areas of the state. They've combined the public schools in Owatonna. They've combined the Minnesota state system, community college system. They've combined the employers in the area and Steele and Owatonna counties. And they put together a program of training people and then having jobs waiting for them. And it's a $1 million investment. And what I'd like to see, my amendment does, I'd like to see a report at the end of the project so that we have a little bit of information about what went well with the report, what didn't go well, how many students were involved in the program and getting the training, how many jobs were available, how many found employment. So it's really a report on the investment that we're making on $1 million for the program, and actually then getting a report on the successes, maybe some of the hurdles that were found along the way. So I'd really appreciate a support on this. I think it's a good bill, but we need to have a summary report on the project. Thank you.
To the A10 amendment, Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President, and Senator Clausen, thank you for the amendment. I don't disagree with you at all. I think that would be a valuable tool. The one problem I have is the high school is scheduled to be complete with construction in the fall of 23, which actually makes the first year 24. And with the report being due on February 2025, I just think it's a little premature. I would like to ask the author of the amendment if he would be okay with changing the date to 2026 to give them one additional year. So I would offer an amendment to the amendment to change the date to February 1st of 2026. Senator
Jasinski moves to amend the A10 amendment, line page 1, line 6, strike 2025 and insert 2026. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Jasinski moves to amend the Clausen Amendment, line 1.6, change the number 2025 to 2026.
To the oral amendment, Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I would view this as a friendly amendment and certainly would accept that. Thank you.
To the oral amendment, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The amendment is adopted. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Clausen, for bringing this to us yesterday so we could look through it, work on it, see that change. And with that, I would see this as a friendly amendment.
Further discussion to the A10 amendment as amended. Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. The amendment is adopted. Senator Isaacson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer the, make sure I have it right here, the A8 amendment.
Senator Isaacson moves the A8 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Isaacson moves to amend House File Number 3872 as follows. Page 24, line 17, after. This is the A8 amendment.
To the A8 amendment, Senator Isaacson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have workforce development scholarships in this bill in the areas of advanced manufacturing, agriculture, health services, information technology, early childhood and transportation. And the Republicans, my friends across the aisle, added construction and law enforcement. And I would like to add K-12 education to that as well, please.
Senator Isaacson, they're thinking furiously. If you'd like to speak again, Senator Isaacson.
I would, well, I could talk some more, buy him some time. Oh, Senator Duckworth looks like he has something to say.
Senator Duckworth.
Would Senator Isaacson yield for a question, Mr. President?
He will. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to look at the amendment yet, but does it put the bill out of order in terms of funds, out of balance?
Senator Isaacson.
No, it does not, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to stand and support this. This is a time where we have a similar issue like law enforcement, where we have people leaving the profession. We need to encourage people. This is at no cost. It just adds education to the jobs bill, so this would allow scholarships to be available for people entering the field of education in the K-12, E-12 system. Thank you.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. And yeah, we're feverishly looking over this, kind of trying to get a grasp of what it is and what it's going to do. At first blush, it looks okay, but yet as we think about it as well, this really expands the pool in that area. Not that I'm not going to be open to talk with Senator Isaacson about this, but at this time, I'm just not comfortable accepting this as a friendly amendment and would ask a no vote.
Senator Isaacson.
First, I'd like to ask for a roll call.
Roll call requested. Roll call granted. Senator Isaacson.
So, Mr. President, I think that what makes this what I was hoping would be a unifying amendment so important is it provides just another avenue by which we can bring more people into the teaching industry. And as we know, we're going to need teachers, and that's beyond dispute. And so this gives us a good avenue to do that. I don't know, I would maybe take umbrage with Senator Rarick's clarification or classification of having a very broadening effect. It's just one more area when you already have 6, 7, 8 areas. And if anything, with law enforcement having its own dedicated fund, it's really 7. And so that it would be adding to. And so I think that this is a really effective way for us to let our students and our teachers know that we support them, and this gives us an opportunity to have more people be recruited and brought into the teaching field and a chance to become teachers, especially those who maybe don't have a lot of financial opportunity in front of them and going to school might be difficult. So I hope we can see this as also creating more access and removing barriers, and that's something I think we can do, especially if we're going to be true to our words about wanting to bring teachers of color into the teaching profession. So I think this is a really good bill, and I think it has our amendment. I think it does a lot to help push forward bringing more teachers into the industry. So I hope you guys can give me a green vote. Thank you.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. And you know, there are other sections of the bill that focus on teachers. As Senator Isaacson mentioned, we have a Teachers of Color provision. We increased the funding there a little bit. This program, we did add construction and law enforcement in, but we also increased the funding around it because of that. Adding in the teachers without being able to have more funding just lessens the amount that each student would have available. That is why at this time in this part of the bill I am opposed, but we're always open to looking at what we can do to help encourage folks to get into teaching. That's in this bill in other areas.
Further discussion to the A8 amendment? Seeing none, the Secretary will take the roll on the amendment. I call on Senator Kunish to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish.
Mr. President, Senator Swedzinski votes aye.
Swedzinski votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Kent votes aye.
Kent votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Marty votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
Pappas votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Kunish.
And Senator Lopez Franzen votes aye.
Lopez Franzen votes aye. Call on Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Tomassoni votes no.
Tomassoni votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes no.
Anderson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes no.
Coleman votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes no.
Gazelka votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes no.
Goggin votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes no.
Howe votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Limmer votes no.
Limmer votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Benson votes no.
Benson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lang votes no.
Lang votes nay. All members having voted, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 32 ayes and 35 nays, the motion does not prevail. Amendment is not adopted. Further amendments and discussions to House File 3872. Senator Kunish.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have before you, I would like to present to you an amendment that is similar to the work that we've been doing here in the Minnesota Senate. Just yesterday morning, through the leadership of Senator Kiffmeyer, along with Senator Rude and Senator Coleman, Senator Port and Senator Dietzig, we've been working on the Minnesota Senate non-discriminatory and anti-harassment policy. We are looking for clarity and guidelines and explicit language on what is acceptable and what is non-acceptable behavior and language here in the Minnesota Senate. We are working on a whole segment of new language that focuses on necessary training for our senators and our staff so that we are not subjected between all of us to any sort of sexual harassment or intimidation that might happen. So at this minute, I would like to propose the amendment A9, and I'll ask for a roll call.
Senator Kudish moves the A9 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Kunish moves to amend House File Number 3872 as follows. Page 19 after line 5, insert. This is the A9 amendment.
Roll call is requested. Roll call granted. Senator Kudish.
Yes, this amendment would require post-secondary institutions to establish written policy on sexual harassment and sexual violence. And this bill would require those policies to include an affirmative consent standard as defined in the bill. The bill also changes current law requiring student sexual assault training to incorporate this affirmative consent standard. I find that this is an important issue in this day and age. Statistics of violence, especially at a college level where there are so many young folks gathered, where there's all kinds of activity around socializing, drinking, those sort of things. And too often that there have been issues of violence against men and women. And so this bill, this amendment, would require our higher education, post-secondary institutions to establish in writing and then provide that training and that explanation to the students and to hopefully staff so that they understand that they are keeping our students, men and women, safe across the board. It's a really startling statistic that 54% of persons between the ages of 18 and 34 have been victims of violence, and that 9 out of 10 of those victims are women. And so, members, we have here the opportunity to be clear and explicit around expectations of behavior, as well as outlining and defining that kind of behavior. And I would ask you all to support this with a green vote. Thank you.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is a subject that is talked a lot about here at the Capitol, and typically an area out of what I deal with. Fortunately, Representative O'Neill works in this area a great deal, so I do have some background. And the unfortunate thing with this amendment, if you look at it, it removes the reference back to Chapter 609. And this is the area of statute where this is defined, affirmative consent is defined. And if we remove this, we have the potential of we're teaching and instructing our college students one thing, but our courts, and when they look at the definition, are going to be looking at something completely different. We absolutely need to be teaching our students according to what the law is, and the other body has a provision in this bill that does just that. And so we will definitely be looking at that in conference committee and likely to move forward with that provision. But Mr. President, with that, I also would rise under Rule 35.2 that this is not germane. It is also in the judiciary area, and it's written to Section 135, which is not in this bill.
Senator Rarick rises to a point of order under Senate Rule 35.2 that the amendment is not germane. Advice, Senator Kunish.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Rarick. I feel this is absolutely pertinent. I don't think that we should only address this in one area and one area only. I think it needs to be incorporated in many, many different statutes so that there is not that discrepancy and misinterpretation, and I would ask that you accept this amendment as it is.
Further advice to the point of germaneness.
Mr. President.
Senator Porton.
Advice.
Advice, Senator Porton.
Mr. President, I was 19 years old on the campus of the University of Minnesota when I was raped. That was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I started working on affirmative consent laws in general. Students at the University of Minnesota, young women, have been asking us to move, asking us to stand up for them, asking us to move legislation that actually protects them. And for 20 years, we have found reasons not to. We have shifted it. It needs to be in a different bill. It needs to be addressed in a different way. We need to have more conversations about this. Mr. President, members, this is affecting the lives of our young people in dramatic ways. It is time that we take action. We have the ability to do so in this amendment today to move forward this conversation. It can continue in the conference committee to work out the issues between the different chambers' bills. But Mr. President, we have an opportunity to stand up as the Minnesota Senate and say we are taking this problem seriously. There is an epidemic of sexual violence on our campuses, and we need to take that seriously. We have an opportunity with Senator Kunish's amendment, and I hope that we take it.
Members, after listening to the advice on the point of germaneness, the President does rule that the amendment is not germane to the bill and is out of order. Further discussion to the House File 3872. Senator Kunish.
I'd like to appeal that decision and ask for a roll call.
Senator Kunish appeals the judgment of the President and requests a roll call vote. The question before the body is, shall the decision of the President be the judgment of the Senate? A green vote upholds the decision of the President. A red vote overrules the decision of the President. The Secretary will take the roll. I call on Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Tomassoni votes aye.
Tomassoni votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes aye.
Gazelka votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howell votes aye.
Howell votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Limmer votes aye.
Limmer votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Benson votes aye.
Benson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. I call on Senator Kunish to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish.
Mr. President, Senator Swadzinski votes no.
Swadzinski votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Eaton votes no.
Eaton votes nay. Senator Kudish.
Senator Kent votes no.
Kent votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Marty votes no.
Marty votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Newton votes no.
Newton votes no. Senator Kunish.
Senator Pappas votes no.
Pappas votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Rest votes no.
Rest votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Torres Ray votes no.
Torres Ray votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Wickland votes no.
Wickland votes nay. Senator Kunish.
And Senator Lopez Franzen votes no.
Lopez Franzen votes nay. Yep. And I'm Senator Isaacson, we're in the middle of a vote. I cannot call upon you except for the two people reporting votes under 40.7.
I call for absentees then. You can? She's right there. Huh? What? Why are you shaking your head at me? You cannot vote. You can just choose not to vote. Yeah. She's right there. Where? Is that there? I don't know. Yeah.
It's just saying that they have to establish an affirmative consent standard.
All members having voted with a desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 34 ayes and 32 nays, the decision of the president is sustained. Further amendments and discussion to House File 3872, Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I cannot recall during my time in the Senate where we've been discussing either a supplemental budget bill or a budget bill that we haven't put money toward Minnesota Student Grant Program. And yet that's the situation we're finding ourselves in as we review this bill. Minnesota Student Grant has been around since 1984 to assist students attending higher education with the cost associated with that. The last information we have was from 2019, I believe. There's 80,000 students that rely upon the Minnesota Student Grant Program. That's $208 million a year that goes out to help students to fulfill their college plans, university plans. And in the end, those same people enter our workforce and are contributing members of the Minnesota society and communities across the state. So with that, in looking at this, for under $500,000, we can make a change and reduce the student contribution from 50% to 48%. So we can lower the amount that students have to contribute to that degree and provide additional funding for them through the Minnesota State Grant Program. And that's for under $500,000, under $500,000. If we would do that in this bill, we could lower the student responsibility by 2 percentage points. And what that means is anywhere from $300 to $400 more per pupil that are accessing the grant, depending upon their eligibility. So with that, Mr. President, I'd like to offer the A11.
Senator Clausen moves the A11 amendment. The secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Clausen moves to amend House File number 3872 as follows. Page 2, line 9, delete. This is the A11 amendment.
To the A11 amendment, Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, to balance the bill, we need to find where we're going to take that money. And looking carefully through the budget portions, the money would be coming from the Skills Path program. You have a letter from our Department of Labor and Industry Commissioner Robertson talking about that program. And she is raising questions, two things. One is, we already have programs that are very similar to that. So why are we inventing a new program where we perhaps should be putting the money towards existing programs and expanding them? The second is that she raises concerns about the age of the participants in the proposed Skills Path program and placing them in situations where their safety might be questioned. So with that, Mr. President, I would encourage that we can make a huge dent in the Minnesota Student Grant Program by lowering the required dollar amount for students, and at the same time, really choose not to fund a program that's not necessary, because we already have programs in place, and as the letter indicates from Commissioner Robertson, there are some issues about underage people participating and the safety in the workplace. Thank you.
Discussion to the A11 amendment. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. We all know that grants and scholarships are incredibly important for our students, and it is something that before session I spoke was something I would be looking at. But remember, last year we increased the funding in this area by $2.6 million per year ongoing. So the provisions that we have in here that we're looking to take the money from for this were things that we prioritized in the committee this year. And again, the youth skills portion of this bill to me are important. It's working towards this gap that we have in an area that hasn't been addressed as much in recent years. And I know, I said, it was asked earlier, the youth skills is in other areas, through the jobs bill and other areas, but this provision is allowing up to 10 schools to get a $50,000 grant to get equipment into their schools to help along this path. So I would ask members that you vote no on this. I mean, we can find a bunch of things that are important and ways to shift money around, but Senator Tomassoni and I have worked hard to put this bill in the shape it is, and would appreciate that we leave the money where it is. These are the programs we identified that we wanted to make the investments this year. Thank you.
Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would request a vote on this.
Say again?
Pardon me?
You would what? I missed that.
I'm requesting a vote on this.
Oh, a roll call.
A roll call
We're
vote,
requesting
yes.
a roll call. Okay. Roll call requested, roll call granted. See no further discussion. The Secretary will take the roll on the A11 amendment.
So if she does not come back, can you record her as a yes on this? Okay. Thank you.
I call on Senator Kunish to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish.
Mr. President, Senator Swedzinski votes aye.
Swedzinski votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Kent votes aye.
Senator Kent votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Marty votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
Pappas votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Kunish.
And Senator McEwen votes aye.
McEwen votes aye.
Mr. President, Senator
Senator Kunish.
Lopez Franson votes aye.
Lopez Franson is an aye on the board. Calling Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Tomassoni votes no.
Tomassoni votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes no.
Anderson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes no.
Coleman votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes no.
Gazelka votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes no.
Goggin votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes no.
Hall votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Benson votes no.
Benson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes no.
Lang votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Limmer votes aye.
Limmer votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Senjum votes no.
Senjum votes nay. All members having voted, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 32 ayes and 35 nays, the motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. 2 years ago, when I was assigned to the Higher Ed Committee, I wasn't quite sure why I was being assigned there. As an area way out of my background. So one of the things, since I got in the legislature, with whether it be K-12 education or other areas, especially where I didn't have the background, I would always reach out to people I knew to help give me advice and help me get up to speed. So I did the same with higher ed. And one of the groups that I met along the way were some athletes from the University of Minnesota. I met Shane Niskus. He's an Olympic gymnast from the University of Minnesota. He's going to be in the Olympics again. And he shared his story with me about when his program was cut from the University of Minnesota. And he had heard inklings of this coming, and he was reaching out. The whole gymnastics program, the men's track program, and the men's tennis program were asking to be a part of the conversation. What can we do to save our programs? The story that Shane Niskus told was they received a call one day that there's going to be a Zoom meeting. The whole program gets on the Zoom call. They hear from the university, your program is cut. We have other meetings we have to go to. Sorry. The call was done. Members, it is our job in the legislature to listen to our constituents, to listen to advocacy groups, to come to our decisions. And unfortunately, as I spoke to more and more people involved with the sports programs at the University of Minnesota, they just do not feel that the university is doing that same thing. They are not being listened to. They came with a request to the university that a commission be put together around intercollegiate athletics, that they may help guide where the university is going to go in the future. And if you didn't hear, John Roethlisberger, another Olympic gymnast from the University of Minnesota, gave an unbelievably passionate speech in our higher education committee and laid out just what this group wants to do and how they want to engage. Members, many of you signed on to a letter from me to the Board of Regents and the university asking them to do this commission. And I know a letter had gone out previously from members of the legislature asking them to do this. The response that we received didn't say they were going to do it or weren't going to do it. The response tried to justify everything they had done all along the way. Senator Tomassoni and I were very, very disappointed with that response. We had truly hoped that the Board of Regents would engage with this group and many to try and guide the future for these non-revenue programs at the university. They failed to do that. Well, one of the tools that we have as the legislature, if we're not going to be listened to when we request that they do something, is, we've heard already today the request that the University of Minnesota has from this legislature for more money. With their capital investment and other monies they're asking for, a total almost $1 billion. And they're asking that we listen to them and all their concerns and act. Yet they've failed to do that very same thing. And so, members, I offer the A5 amendment.
Senator Rarick moves the A5 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Rarick moves to amend House File Number 3872 as follows, page 4, line 24, after the period insert. This is the A5 amendment.
To the A5 amendment, Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. This amendment is requesting that the university do this commission. But it does take one more step. I understand we do not have the authority in legislation to tell them to do it. I understand that. But what this amendment does, it goes further to say that if they are going to receive funding under this bill, in order for that money to be appropriated, then they must do this commission. That commission must happen first. That is the power we have here in the legislature. The power of the purse strings. I am pleading with the university and the Board of Regents to do this commission. It is the right thing to do. The members of those programs and all of the non-revenue programs deserve to have their voices heard. And members, I ask that you support this so we can send a strong message to the Board of Regents that they should act on this and put together this commission.
Discussion to the A5 amendment. Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. 30 years and 40 pounds ago, I was an intercollegiate athlete. And I completely understand the importance of sport and the role that it can play at a college, for the institution and for the individuals who participate. I also have, with Senator Rarick, had several meetings and conversations with athletes and parents of athletes who are not only frustrated but feel actively hurt, not just by the denial of this opportunity, but by the process that decided it. So I completely endorse and support the call for a commission for the U to study this situation and to come up with better ways to understand and deal with athletics. However, withholding funding from the U as a whole, while it might be effective, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, I've got two kids. Say one of them comes home and gets all A's on their report card. The other one gets a B, and so obviously I want to punish them for their mediocrity. I'm not going to ground both my kids because one of them didn't do especially well. And when you look at the funding that goes to the U, that's for everything that happens there. It's not for athletics, it's for teachers, it's for everything, it's for public safety, it's for everything that happens there. This is a heavy-handed response. I completely understand the frustrating in not getting an answer from the U and that they haven't taken the steps that we'd like them to do, but this is not a rational response to that. I mean, this is even worse because no state funding, none of the money that we give the U actually goes to athletics. So this is even worse. This is my kid doesn't do very well and I ground the neighbor down the street. It might be effective, but it doesn't make sense. So members, I'll reiterate. I absolutely 100% support the idea behind this commission. I understand and feel the frustration that parents and student athletes are feeling. But this isn't the right way to goad them into making this decision because it just doesn't make any sense.
Senator Isaacson.
Mr. Chair, I've been doing higher education stuff now for about 10 years, and it never ceases to amaze me the new ways we try to find to stick a needle in the University of Minnesota here by my friends across the aisle. It just continues to boggle my mind. And what boggles my mind about it, and I talked about this yesterday, was this concept of a false narrative, right? The narrative that's being presented isn't the narrative of what's actually happening. And so let's think about education. The University of Minnesota has its entirely own right to govern itself. And anytime we think we're going to begin to try to force them to take on policies we like because some people aren't happy, we are entirely engaged in what I call a classic overreach. And the problem I have with that is that this is something where the Board of Regents, who by the way we choose, made a decision. Now, whether you like the decision or not, I'm not getting into that battle, and I know that's what my friends across the aisle want to wade into, but it is entirely inappropriate for us to be directing them on any level, and especially threatening funding. And Senator Rarick, you said earlier, and I let it go, but I can't let it go again. You talked about how they asked for such a giant amount of money. Folks, we know the University of Minnesota brings dollars back on the dollars we spend. It's probably one of the best investments we have here in the state, period. Not only that, the entire function of the University of Minnesota helps make Minnesota a better place and educates our people and gives opportunity. I just will never understand this idea that we're going to somehow starve them or cost them money because we want to punish them because we don't like what they're doing when they're a university who educates our populace. On top of that, putting money in the University of Minnesota only adds to Minnesota. That's all it is. It's like investing in ourselves. By some studies, by a rate of up to 13-to-1 return on the investment. Yet I hear people talking about how they asked for such a giant sum of money. Well, I wonder why we've been starving them for the last 20 years. How are we surprised by that? Of course they asked for a lot of money. That's what they need to function. And to pretend like there's some junior college down the road is ridiculous. They are an international player on the international scene, at the top of their game on many, many levels, providing academic success and research and all kinds of wonderful things for our state over and over and over again for decades. Yet I continue to hear this war on the University of Minnesota that almost sounds petulant in the sense that because we can't tell them what to do, we're going to withhold all of our money. Folks, if you want to do a commission, whatever, that's silly. It's an overreach, and it's embarrassing that we're even engaging in that level of discussion about a university policy. That's just silly. But the fact that we think we're going to punish them, like we're going to take our ball and go home, to an organization that all it does is make Minnesota a better place, and every dollar we put into it does that. And then to add insult to injury on top of all of that, we're going to punish them because of something happening in athletics that punishes someplace else, and it doesn't even punish athletics. That defies logic. I have not seen many asinine bills on this floor. This is definitely one of them. We shouldn't amend it or fix it. We should just vote it down. This is ridiculous.
Senator Dietzick was next, then Senator Rarick. Senator Dietzick.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I mentioned earlier, I represent the neighborhoods around the University of Minnesota. And what I have heard from my constituents is the cost of tuition. They want, quite frankly, to freeze tuition, put more money into the state grant program, the housing issues and the cost of housing, and public safety. I have heard from parents from your district, whose kids are students at the U of M in my district that are concerned about their safety. And if I'm reading this amendment correctly, so it amends page 4, line 24, as a condition of receiving this supplement appropriation, the public safety appropriation, the $454,000 for public safety. You're tying that money. You're tying the public safety money. There was a Star Tribune story that Senator Johnson Stewart found that talks about crime in the vicinity of the U in the 2020-2021 school year was up 40%. Auto thefts were up 60%. In the neighborhood right next to the U, Dinkytown, Marcy Homes, the assaults are up dramatically since 2021, and auto theft is up dramatically since 2021. So crime is occurring, and you're cutting the public safety dollars that would help so that the U can partner with Minneapolis MPD to keep those students safe. I grew up 3 miles north of the U. I went to the U. My brother played hockey at the U. We always followed and were immersed and always watched all of the U athletics. We just grew up valuing athletics. I believe that athletics is important to keeping kids in school. It is important to building the culture, and athletics at the U is part of our community and part of our culture. So I fully appreciate and the frustration and share the frustration of the group that is upset with these sports being cut. I did talk to one of them. I know the family well. She knows my family well. And I agree with her that this was not handled properly. I've told the U they were not transparent. They could have handled this better. Senator Rarick, I will work with you going forward to try to resolve this, to at least better understand why the U came to the decision. Is there something that we can do going forward? But I don't think tying up public safety money is the appropriate thing that we want to do right now. We continue to talk about how important public safety is to our community, that we support public safety. We shouldn't be cutting this dollars. So I ask a no vote on this amendment.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Let's talk about the narrative then. What is the narrative and how did we get here? It has been a failure of the Board of Regents to listen. There's possibly another amendment that's going to come today, asking to rearrange the way the Board of Regents is, to ask for a faculty member, a staff member, and another member of the student body to be on the Board of Regents. Why? Because they don't listen to them either. The Board of Regents has gone into a little bubble, and it's time to send them a message. We've tried to do it all during session. They do not engage. The public response to this has been overwhelming. I have hundreds of emails that the group has gotten through and sent to me. They've sent all of those emails to the Board of Regents as well, yet they fail to respond. I wondered as I watched the NCAA basketball tournament this last year, there was a commercial that played over and over. It was NCAA talking about the opportunities that these intercollegiate sports offer to the student athletes. And one of the programs that was highlighted in that commercial was gymnastics. I wonder what the Board of Regents members thought as they watched that commercial. Members, I didn't want to tie up funding to the University of Minnesota to this. I wanted them to listen. I wanted them to respond to what the people of Minnesota are asking them to do. They failed. They have been asked repeatedly for over a year to do this. And their response doesn't even say, we're not willing to do it. They try to justify their actions all the way through. That's not acceptable. I could use a word that was used earlier on the floor. That's how I feel their response has been. I won't go there. There comes a time, members, when a public body will not engage and will not listen. We need to wake them up and get their attention. They have an opportunity to do this. Please vote for this amendment to wake up the Board of Regents.
Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I appreciate the discussion that we're having here today. The thing I keep going back to is that this body, the Senate, along with the House, we are the ones that appoint the Board of Regents. And they are the governing body of the University of Minnesota, and we expect them to govern. If an issue comes up in my community that the local city council has passed and it does not violate any state, federal laws, am I going to rush out and withhold funding because I didn't like what they did? I would tend to agree that their process was perhaps not, how can I word this, not fully transparent. I think they could have done a better job, but the decision has been made. And the University of Minnesota is not alone here. It's been brought up earlier, the University of Minnesota doesn't spend appropriated money by the legislature for athletics. It's a business. Revenue has to balance with expenses, and so they have to make decisions that are difficult, especially, I think, at the University of Minnesota, when you compare with the other Big Ten schools, we're somewhat at the bottom about revenue that we take in compared to other stadiums with 200,000 seats available that they pack every fall with football games and so on. So it's a business, and they aren't spending state money to run that business. They have to balance expenditures with revenues. We see across the nation other universities doing similar things, and it's been brought up gymnastics, and I think over the years we now have 18 NCAA gymnastics teams in the nation that are sponsored by universities. So this has been going on for quite some time. What I'd like to do, Mr. President, is offer an oral amendment.
Senator Clausen moves an oral amendment. Senator Clausen.
The oral amendment would remove lines 1.4 through 1.8 in Senator Rarick's amendment.
The Secretary will report the oral amendment.
Senator Clausen moves to amend the Rarick amendment as follows. Delete lines.
Senator Clausen, I think 1.7.
1.7, excuse me, Mr. President. Thank you.
Secretary will report the revised oral amendment.
Delete the lines 1.4 through lines 1.7.
To the oral amendment, Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't like to use this word, but basically it's blackmail. If we don't get our way, this is what's going to happen, and I don't think that's how we should be doing business. Going forward, we can look at making some changes, establishing dialogue, but I don't think right now this is the direction that we should be going. Thank you.
To the oral amendment, Senator Rarick.
Mr. President, a roll call, please.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would oppose this amendment.
Senator Friends.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to rise in support of the Clausen Amendment. It's one thing to talk about the management of the University of Minnesota Regents. It's one thing to debate what the best state policy is for it. It's quite another to say, if you don't do what we say, we're going to withhold funding. It is that part of this that I oppose, and therefore I ask members to vote yes on the Clausen oral amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Latz.
Mr. President, I too rise in support of the Clausen oral amendment. This is a really interesting discussion. I share everyone, well, not everyone's, I share the frustration of many people that I heard from also about the university's decision to cut some of the athletics from their sports. I thought it was a mistake, and I think they should have found a different way, and frankly, the savings that they achieved were not enough to have made it worth it anyway. There has to have been a better way to deal with it. In fact, I know there were a lot of parents and supporters of the non-revenue sports that were on the chopping block that were putting together longer-term funding mechanisms to be able to support those particular sports so they could keep going. So I think they came to absolutely the wrong conclusion on this, although I wasn't in the room and I didn't see all the underlying data. That's my judgment from having some information on it and from having some family understanding of what it takes to govern the University of Minnesota as well. There's a reason why the University of Minnesota is constitutionally independent from the legislature. And this is exactly why that's the case. If we want to go back to our founding documents for the state of Minnesota, if you're an originalist and you want to implement the intent of our founders who wrote the Constitution, then you simply cannot support the overall amendment as proposed by Senator Rarick, because it is exactly blackmail. It is that kind of blackmail which the Constitution was trying to protect the independent land-grant institution of our higher education institution in Minnesota from. Now, I will gladly support a commission, and if this amendment succeeds, I will gladly vote for the underlying amendment, identified lines 1.9 through the end, or 1.8 through the end. But think about the precedent that we would be setting if the underlying Rarick amendment as a whole gets passed. What's the next decision that the University of Minnesota Board of Regents makes that some members of the legislature don't like, and they decide to introduce a bill to cut funding for, name the department? Here, shockingly, given the priorities in the legislature this year and the people of Minnesota this year, the proposal is to cut public safety funding. To me, I just don't understand that at all. That's really tone deaf, if you ask me, not to mention putting students and people who live in that area literally at risk of being victims of crime. So if I were making public safety a priority, I would think, most people in this chamber will, I would be voting against this amendment just for that reason alone, the underlying Rarick amendment. But the precedent would be, if you don't like something, if you don't like the fact that a particular language is being taught in the language department at the University of Minnesota, you're going to introduce a bill that says if you don't eliminate that language, we're going to cut funding for the entire language department, or take some unrelated department, we're going to cut funding for something else. If you don't like the way a professor is teaching a particular class or the curriculum that a professor is using in a particular class, you don't like that, you don't like the way a professor is treating certain students, as justifiable as that kind of a grievance might turn out to be, if the remedy is proposed that we're going to cut funding for the university because of that, that's the kind of precedent the Rarick Amendment would set. And I think that would be a terrible message for this legislature to send. It would have a chilling effect on all sorts of conduct throughout the university. Now, I know the argument is going to be, yeah, it's intended to have a chilling effect. But the fact is, we can use our bully pulpit here to send important messages. And we have a media platform here. We can put out press statements. We can make statements on the floor. The university listens. But it sounds to me like the grievance here is not that the university has been unresponsive to emails and phone calls, but that the University Board of Regents has not changed their mind in response to those emails and phone calls. And whether we like it or not, the Constitution of the state of Minnesota gives them the right to not agree with emails, phone calls, letters, personal conversations, which were more prevalent at the time of the Constitution's writing. They have that right, and that's for good reason. So, members, the first section of this amendment that would zero out public safety funding that protects the safety of students on campus and all others on campus, seems to me you don't want to be in a position, my colleagues here on the Senate floor don't want to be in a position of voting for that provision in a roll call vote if it survives the Clausen oral amendment. I certainly don't want to be in a position to do that either. So if you support the Clausen amendment here and you remove that offensive provision from the Rarick amendment, I think you're going to find a pretty strong vote in favor of the remaining terms of the Rarick amendment calling for that commission. So for those reasons, members, I encourage a green vote on the Clausen oral amendment.
To the oral amendment, Senator Bingham.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I too rise in support of the Clausen amendment. And this bill already did not have the request of the University of Minnesota for public safety, so to completely zero it out does defy logic, as my colleague said. Mr. President, I support this amendment, and I want to reiterate, because last week we were debating a bill where I was trying to send the same message. I'm gonna quote what was just said by the author of the amendment. Try to send them a message. Will not engage. Fail to respond. Want them to respond to Minnesotans. Will not listen. And we need to wake them up. Well, Mr. President, the reason why I support this is because the oral amendment is because I don't think punishing is the answer, but sending a message is. And I just wish the author of the amendment and the majority party had as much passion for the Safe and Skilled Worker Act than the micromanaging of the Board of Regents. Vote yes on the Clausen bill.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm rising in opposition to the Clausen amendment. Senator Clausen and I served on the Higher Ed Committee our first term. And I got to say that every time we talked to the University of Minnesota, it seemed like I got the same answer over and over. We're the land-grant university. We'll take it under advisement. It was very, very condescending. Now, I get that the Constitution does, in fact, break out the university, and they are independent from us, but we do have the power of the purse. And I think the University of Minnesota, as they come to us every single year asking for money, that there be some accountability, some cooperation with this legislature, and that we remind them that we have the power of the purse. You know what I found disconcerting and why I support the Rarick Amendment overall, and I was going to wait a minute until this amendment came up, but shortly after, $1.6 million was cut from the athletic department for these sports. The Regents gave the president a 73% pay raise over the next 5 years. She goes from $679.6 thousand to $1.176 million. Her base goes up almost 19%. Her retirement contribution goes up 81%. She gets a new performance bonus. I have nothing against performance bonuses, but a new $100,000 there. I was a college athlete, and I know what college sports can mean to the individual participant, what it means to the climate at the school. And I was part of a university that cut a number of sports, and I know what the impact was to the culture, to the climate, to the vibe of the university. And despite being able to fund these activities, they were still eliminated. And Senator Rarick just simply asked that he tried it the nice way. He sent him a letter. I signed on to the letter. Hey, please do this. And the University Board of Regents rejected it. I'm tired of the university pushing us aside and being condescending and saying, we'll take it under advisement. Now is the time that we use the power of the purse to level this relationship. I oppose the Clausen amendment to the amendment.
Senator Isaacson.
Well, Mr. President and Senator Pratt, you said, I'm tired of them saying I'm going to take it under advisement. Well, that's what the Constitution says they can do. I'm sorry you don't like that. I'm sorry that my friends across the aisle don't like the fact that the University of Minnesota won't listen to you. I am overly grateful that they don't. Not that them or us. We don't know how to run universities. They do. It's unbelievable to me that we're looking at trying to cut funding because we're unhappy about one thing that they do that we don't like. Yet the list of things they do that we like is overwhelming. This just smacks of take my ball and go home to me. I think that the oral amendment at least makes this so that conversation and dialogue can occur. But put them in a spot. All you're doing is making it so they further don't need to be engaged with us, because they do not. I would prefer that they were. I would like us to be on the same team. I would like us to work with the University of Minnesota, come up with good ideas. But just because they don't like one, taking your ball and going home doesn't make any sense. So I hope we can pass the Clausen amendment. Thank you.
Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Senator Rarick stand for a question?
He will, Senator Clausen.
Thank you. I just looking at this, I'd like to get a clarification. Does your amendment eliminate total funding from the university on their base, or just what we're looking at here as a supplemental budget amount?
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Clausen, it only eliminates the new base that we were putting in this year.
Senator Clausen.
And Senator Rarick, could you tell us the dollar amount of that, please?
He will continue to yield. Senator Rarick.
I believe that's the $454,000.
Senator Clausen.
Thank you.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am horrified at the prospect that this amendment will get passed without Senator Clausen's amendment. We just heard Senator Rarick say, there comes a time when a public body will not respond and will not listen, and we need to take action. If you're not paying attention, and I know I'm on camera right now, we have an amendment on the floor of the Minnesota Senate that says if the regents who we elect don't do what we want, one little thing, by the way, again, if you've just tuned in, it's to initiate a study to review the elimination of men's track, wrestling, and tennis. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. If the regents do not do that, we are going to withhold funding for, and in this case, it's for public safety. It is not a stretch for us to say tomorrow, if the university does not stop research on, I don't know, stem cell funding, let's see, what else might it be that's offensive? There are literally countless things that the university does that we don't like. If the regents don't require that the university stop that or fill in the blank, we're just not going to fund this thing anymore. That is outrageous. The University of Minnesota, all 5 campuses, brings billions of dollars. It brings research and good findings and patents and businesses and students from around the world. And we are conversing today about men's track, wrestling, and tennis being the gateway into trying to indicate the power of the purse, as one of my senators so mentioned. The power of the purse. To me, this is terrifying, horrifying, and I hope I get on camera saying that, because this is just getting us down a very slippery slope. Please vote for Senator Clausen's amendment.
Senator Kunish.
Members, I cannot tell you how appalled I am by this discussion. After the last couple of subjects that we just discussed, we asked for funding for the safety of our college students across the state, for panic buttons, for extra lighting, for extra policing and support. And the members on the right voted no. And then we asked for the universities to update their sexual harassment standards and their consent agreements. And the party on the right voted no. And yet you sit here and you are so outraged that we won't fund a few of the men's sporting events at the university? Are you telling me that's your priority? This is absolutely appalling. This conversation is one of the most ridiculous conversations or debates I have heard on this floor in the last 2 years. You need to stop for a minute and you need to reassess your priorities and your moral codes. And you need to decide what is important. What is the work that is important? Athletics over the safety of women? And then you're going to hold it against the university if you don't get what you want? This is not good governance, Minnesota. This is special interest, and we have seen it time and time again in all of the bills that we are getting from the people on the right. Our DFL caucus has brought good bills, excellent bills, bills that meet the needs of our people right now. And what does the GOP bring us? You're cutting athletics. Sports have been a priority for way too long in this state, Minnesota. You need to start making the people the priority and not your own special interests. Vote yes for the Clausen amendment.
The Secretary will take the roll on the amendment. Calling Senator Kunish to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish.
Mr. President, Senator Swedzinski votes aye.
Swedzinski votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Kent votes aye.
Kent votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Lopez Franzen votes aye.
Lopez Franzen votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Marty votes aye.
Marty votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Pappas votes aye.
Pappas votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator Murphy votes aye.
Murphy votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
McEwen votes aye. Senator Kunish.
And Senator Port votes aye.
Port votes aye. Calling Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry for the delay. Senator Anderson votes no.
Anderson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes no.
Coleman votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes no.
Gazelka votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes no.
Goggin votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes no.
Powell votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Limmer votes no.
Limmer votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Benson votes no.
Benson votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes no.
Lang votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Tomasoni votes no.
Tomasoni votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Housley votes aye. All members having voted, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 33 ayes and 34 nays, the amendment to the amendment is not adopted. Members, we return to the base amendment, which is the A5 amendment. Back to my list, Senator Bingham was next on my list.
Mr. President, I request a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Next on my list is Senator Isaacson. He passes. Senator Dietzig.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members, for the discussion. I think the Clausen amendment would have been a good addition to the bill. I think it would have sent a message. We are having this discussion here on the Senate floor. I would hope that the regents are listening. And I say, I would hope that the regents are listening and the administration is listening, because as I mentioned, I did tell the U, I think that the way they handled this was not transparent, and I truly believe they could have handled it better. The people impacted by this, so the students that were involved in the sports and the athletics, and all of their supporters, and just the sports community and the U of M booster community was deeply impacted by this. They wanted to find resolution. They tried to find resolution. They tried to work with the U to raise additional money if needed, and they're frustrated. I have heard them. I want to work forward with Senator Rarick and with others to try to find, at least if we can't get a resolution that everybody agrees on, at least more transparency on why they did what they did. I have the letter that they responded in April, and it didn't answer all my questions. So I agree with you, Senator Rarick, that it is at times frustrating, but it's also frustrating when you deal with any large institution. I hear from constituents all the time with questions on government, and they get frustrated when I have to tell them, well, that's the federal government or that's the city government. So anytime you deal with a large institution, be it government or actually big business, it can be frustrating. But that doesn't mean we have to literally attach purse strings and literally remove public safety dollars. We had a long conversation last week on public safety and the need for public safety and supporting public safety. This bill, when you tie that public safety dollars to this, you're setting a bad precedent and you're actually hurting our students. So again, I commit to working with you and I commit to working with the advocates, but I don't think this is the answer. I don't think cutting public safety and setting this precedent is an answer. Please vote no.
Senator Latz.
Mr. President, it's ironic that the majority is reminding us that the legislature holds the power of the purse over the University of Minnesota, because this majority has been wielding that power like an axe for many years. When I was first elected to the House in 2002, Governor Pawlenty was the governor, and we were in the deep minority in the House, and we had a deficit in the state. And the solution that year was to start defunding the University of Minnesota. And you know why? Because they were the one place that the state was putting money that had an alternative source of revenue. You know who that was? The students paying tuition. There was a time when the state of Minnesota, through the government, the legislature, paid 2/3 of the cost of educating students at the University of Minnesota. It's about 1/3 now. One might plausibly say, as I have said, unfortunately, repeatedly over the years, that we have now essentially moved, instead of having a public university, we have a private university that receives some public funding. So for those in the majority who are saying we're going to wield the power of the purse here, well, let's remember who's actually paying to educate our students at the university. It's the students themselves taking on way too much student debt, or it's their parents that help pay for the tuition, or it's the National Institutes of Health, which funds almost $1 billion worth of scientific research at the University of Minnesota. And there's a reason why the university is the economic engine of the state. And yes, that is a true statement. They employ tens of thousands of people in Minnesota. They bring in international level scholars and intellectuals who come here to get educated and stay here to provide the entrepreneurial information, the research base, to start and grow companies like Medtronic that started here. And yes, the university pays their president a lot of money. Well, it seems to me that you want someone who's qualified to run a $4 billion institution, operation, bureaucracy, educational school. Do you want to go cheap on hiring someone to manage $4 billion worth of money? And for the majority here, whose principles used to be anyway, I think they still are, the party of the free market, to complain now that the university that has to go into the free market to hire the best people has to pay market rate in order to recruit and retain the best people, including the president, to complain now that the free market isn't where we want to be, that's also a bit ironic. But the most surprising and the most troubling juxtaposition now that we will have before us when the next board goes up and we're called upon to put a green vote up there, which I will not be doing. The most ironic juxtaposition right now is that for months, over and over again, we've been hearing the majority on this floor drumbeating the fact that public safety is the #1 issue, and in particular, that Minneapolis is just awash in crime. I'm beginning to question whether that's really your priority, given this amendment. And honestly, I look forward to hoisting that petard in the next 6 months over the votes that go up on this board, when your press conferences and your messages and your statements and your speeches on the floor here and the priorities you're saying on this Get Tough on Crime bill that we passed on this Senate floor last week. But when you say, we will help stop students and employees and people on the University of Minnesota campus and who live in that area, and there are a lot of people who don't work for the U or attend the U that live in that area, we want to stop them from being robbed. Except when it comes to concern about 3 men's sports. We want to stop those students and other people on the university campus from being pistol whipped, except when it comes to 3 men's sports on campus. We want to protect our young women over there from being raped, except when it comes to 3 men's sports at the U. So go ahead. Vote those priorities when the Rarick Amendment comes to a roll call. I'm looking forward to seeing that board.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this isn't just about 3 men's sports. There were also 40 women's roster spots that were cut by the U. There's an ongoing threat at the U over all of these non-revenue sports, and that's what this commission is about. Looking at the ongoing, across-the-board men's and women's intercollegiate non-revenue sports at the university. And John Roethlisberger said it wonderfully. We can be a leader in this state, and they have the people who are ready to be involved in that commission, and we can set the course for the rest of the country on how we're going to deal with these intercollegiate sports. We've sent multiple letters. We've been asking them to do this. 2 other members of the Board of Regents asked for this commission to be on the agenda this month. It was refused. What other option is there? Many of the members who are saying they're willing to engage and they're behind this, I didn't see their names on the letter that went. If we would have had 67 senators and 134 state representatives sign that letter, that would have been a pretty impressive message. That didn't happen. They're not listening to their staff. They're not listening to their faculty. They're not listening to their students. I will toss this provision aside in a heartbeat if the Board of Regents is willing to do this commission and start to engage and listen to the people who want to do this work and change the course of intercollegiate sports in Minnesota and across the country. Members, vote yes, knowing that if they'll engage, this will disappear. We don't need to withhold their funding. One last thing, this is not a precedent. I did check. I did not want to do something that's never been done before. This has been done before. Not very often, but this is not something that has never been done. Thank you.
Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President, the overriding issue for me is one of governance. I mean, we could be talking about any issue, but the university is governed by the Board of Regents. They make those decisions. We can agree, we can disagree, but they are the governing body. And I think the debate that we're having here right now is overstepping, I think, our role in the process. As Senator Latz pointed out, there's a reason why the university has autonomy. Is the next issue going to be what books that are in the library? What the curriculum would be? Who can speak on campus? What research can be done on the university? There's a reason that they have autonomy and make those decisions, and we're the group We're the group that elects those people. We appoint those people. We go through an extensive process to have the very best people in place of governing the University of Minnesota. So again, it can be any issue, but I think we have to look at this from a governance standpoint. Are we going to meddle into the university? What's the next issue that's going to come up that we're going to be involved in? Or do we let the university make those decisions? Thank you.
Secretary will take the roll in the A5 amendment. Calling Senator Kunish to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish.
Mr. President, Senator Swedzinski votes no.
Swedzinski votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Eaton votes no.
Eaton votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Kent votes no.
Kent votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Lopez Franzen votes no.
Lopez Franzen votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Marty votes no.
Marty votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Newton votes no.
Newton votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Pappas votes no.
Pappas votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Rest votes no.
Rest votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Torres Ray votes no.
Torres Ray votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Wickland votes no.
Wickland votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Murphy votes no.
Murphy votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator McEwen votes no.
McEwen votes nay. Senator Kunish.
And Senator Port votes no.
Port votes nay. Calling Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes aye.
Gazelka votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howe votes aye.
Howe votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Benson votes aye.
Benson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Tomasoni votes aye.
Tomasoni votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Johnson votes aye.
Johnson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye.
Eichhorn votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
1 minute.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Limmer votes no.
Limmer votes nay. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Housley votes aye.
Housley votes aye. Senator Kunish.
Mr. President, Senator Champion votes no.
Champion votes nay. All senators having voted with the all senators having voted, the secretary will close the roll. There being 34 ayes and 33 nays, the A5 amendment does prevail. The amendment is adopted. Further discussion on amendments? Seeing none, the Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 3872, Bill for an Act relating to higher education.
Third reading. Further discussion before we close the bill. Further discussion. Senator Nelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to stand and thank Senator Rarick for including the HEFA bill, the Higher Education Facilities Authority Board bill, which will expand this to also include health, nonprofit health care, and nonprofit senior care. Those are two important areas. HEFA has been highly successful in helping with conduit bonds for our higher education institutions. I want to thank Senator Rarick for getting this in his omnibus bill today. I want to thank Senator Tomassoni. He is my co-sponsor on this bill and has been a large champion of this from the get-go. Senator Rarick, thank you for including this today. This is incredibly important to our rural areas, particularly, to allow this financing support, not state support, but allowing fee-supported bond service to nonprofit healthcare and nonprofit senior living. So thank you, Senator Rarick, for including this small provision, which will have large impacts.
Senator Putnam.
Thanks, Mr. President. I also want to thank the members of the committee and everyone who worked so hard on this, Nathan Coulter, all our researcher folks, and all the legislative assistants who helped us work on higher education for the past couple months. I do want to say, though, something that I said in committee when we last voted on this bill, that while there is lots of good stuff in it, and there's nothing in it that's actively bad, the priorities demonstrated in this bill are not the priorities of Minnesota students. 90%, according to a study by LeadMN, 90% of Minnesota's two-year students feel like they can't pay their bills. We don't know how many students are suffering with crippling depression, but they are. And we haven't heard their voices in this bill. I voted against this bill in committee for that primary reason, that we were not attending to the mental health of students in our community. Now, I know that the complaint is out there that this is not a budget bill, but do you think a student who is suffering right now cares about that at all? Do you think Minnesotans throughout this state think, oh, well, you know, there's this procedural concern because it's not a budget year, therefore it's fine that I'm going hungry, it's fine that I can't pay my tuition, it's fine that I am struggling with my mental health? No, they don't. Members, as you think about this bill, as you think about how we treat higher education, as you think about how we treat each other, I do hope that we will listen more closely to those who struggle, and that the decisions we make with the resources we have will be directed toward alleviating that suffering and increasing opportunity, not just in this community or that, but in all of Minnesota.
Senator Eichhorn. Sorry, Senator Isaacson. It was close. I was close. Similar.
Mr. President, I hope you apologize to Senator Eichhorn for that misspeak. I'm sure he would not take that pleasantly.
I will. Senator Isaacson.
Thank you. You know, I've been listening to the higher ed bills over the years, and always been pushed back by a very thoughtful and, what seemed to be a well-intentioned concern about higher education, but there just isn't the money. We can't squeeze blood from a rock, I think is what I heard from several of my friends across the aisle. Unfortunately, that reason is no longer available, and I have been stunned by the lack of any reason to take its place, other than it's not a budget year. So while the students suffer, while the schools decline, while programs are not what they once were, while asset preservation continues to decline, we have the money now to do something about it, and now we're just choosing not to. I mean, at least before, an argument can be made about economics. But now it's just, we're just saying we're not going to make that a priority. I mean, go along with what Senator Putnam said, you know, and this is what I've said before. These omnibus bills are your values, what you value and what you don't value. I value education, I value our students, and I value the good people in whatever capacity they do it that provide that education. And I wish our legislature valued that so we can continue to be one of the best states in the union. And this bill just doesn't do that. And there is no excuse for it. I mean, as frustrated as I was, if there's no money, there's no money, and I get that. We can't just magically make it, right? But there is money. There's a lot of money there that we could be used to doing a lot of good in Minnesota. And just like yesterday, when I spoke about the E12 bill, I'm going to say the same thing to Senator Rarick that I said to Senator Chamberlain. I want to vote for a good bill. I sincerely hope when this bill comes back to us, if it does, which I assume it will be good enough that we can vote for it and some good will be done. I hope that we take seriously the idea of investing in our schools. We've been talking about the University of Minnesota, and we haven't talked about Min State as much, but I can tell you that they're not doing much better. And we, again, have an opportunity to make these things, as someone said, be a leader in the country, and we're just simply not taking that mantle. And we refuse to because it's like we pretend like there's nothing wrong. And we kick that bucket down the street a little farther. We do it in healthcare, we do it in education, public safety, bonding. I mean, there's just so many places we keep kicking it down the street rather than actually taking it on. And then the next legislature has to deal with it. It gets a little bit more complex. At some point, we have to rip the Band-Aid off and say, we're going to fund our schools, or at some point, we have to say these schools aren't a priority. But I wish we wouldn't give it lip service, because that's what I hear right now. We have enough money to make a significant impact to help the future of our state, to invest in the future in our state. And one of the only things in our state that all it does is bring good things back for us. Not only as an economic engine, but what it does for our students, both in Min State and at the University of Minnesota system. The only thing that does that, I mean, one of the only things that does that, and we continue to try to starve it, or as we are with this bill, trying to punish them. I'll never understand that logic. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why we would continue to harm things that all they do is good things for Minnesota. It just doesn't make sense. And I urge a resounding no on this bill. And I hope that it comes back so much better. And I'm looking forward to that discussion. Thank you.
Additional final comments before we close the bill? Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this is always a time for thank yous, and I'd like to start with Senator Rarick. I appreciate the open conversation that we've had. I think we met earlier in the session when we talked about that higher education should not be a partisan discussion, and for the most part, I think we were able to accomplish that. But I'd like to say also thank you to our staff, nonpartisan staff, Joan White and Hannah Grundwald, our researcher, Nathan Coulter, and the committee administrator, Tom Brennan, who kept things moving real well and kept us informed. I started out today talking about that this is a workforce development bill, and I still believe that. We invested 95% of the total allocation in 5 workforce programs. I wish they had been more, and I wish we could have had additional funding for existing workforce programs that we have. I think because of the limited financial resources, the bill falls short in making some key investments, and I always look at education as an investment. It's an investment for the future. It's for the growth of our state. It's for people in our state of Minnesota to live lives that are fruitful. And in many ways, this bill will move in that direction, but I think we could have done so much more with the opportunity that we had and I'm afraid it was a missed opportunity, but I'm hopeful that we can come back with a bill that is in better shape and has a few more elements in it to help the people in Minnesota. Thank you.
Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I'm going to close with a statement that I've received from Senator Tomassoni. Mr. President and members, this has been a year like no other. When the year started, there were a lot of questions on how this process might look. Would we be able to make it work? Despite some challenges and speed bumps along the way, I'm happy to say here we are. Having had the honor and privilege of representing the Iron Range for 30 years in St. Paul, I knew this year would be different. At the same time, I was never worried. Time will not allow and words cannot express my sincere gratitude to all my colleagues and staff. First, let me start by thanking Senator Rarick. His commitment and support to this committee were irreplaceable. As a chair of another sitting committee, his ability and support in navigating through committee hearings and standing in on meetings on the fly truly were above and beyond any expectation. Thank you. And Senator Tomassoni, I said before and I say again, it was an honor doing that with you. To my staff, thank you. Laura, you are amazing and make it look easy. All your support, personally and professionally, means so much to me and my family. Tom, thank you for your help working through this process with me. Hannah and Joan, thank you. The dedication and ability of our nonpartisan staff has never ceased to amaze me. Dave Frazier, Greg Exley, and Karen Johnson, your support behind the scenes did not go unnoticed. You were a big part of this committee's success this year. Thank you. To my colleagues, Senator Goggin, Jasinski, Putnam, and Lead-Clausen, thank you for serving with me this year on our committee. It has been an honor serving as chair this past biennium, and your hard work and dedication to our students and institutions of higher learning has been truly appreciated. To Nathan Coulter, thank you for stepping in and supporting my minority colleagues on this committee. This bill is an example. This bill is simple in its mission. Building on a fully funded higher education system, this bill transitions our workforce for the future and doubles down on the priority of addressing serious public safety concerns, removing barriers to proven career paths, allowing for flexibility and innovation. This bill sets up our students for a lifetime of success and better secures our state's fiscal stability. Colleagues and friends, I miss terribly being away from the floor. Thank you so much for your patience, accommodation, and all your support. It's a good bill. Please vote for it.
Secretary will take the roll on final passage of House File 3872 as amended. I call on Senator Kunish to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish.
Mr. President, Senator Swedzinski votes no.
Swedzinski votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Eaton votes no.
Eaton votes no. Senator
Senator
Kunish.
Kent votes no.
Kent votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Marty votes no.
Marty votes no. Senator Kunish.
Senator Newton votes no.
Newton votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Pappas votes no.
Pappas votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Rest votes no.
Rest votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Torres Ray votes no.
Torres Ray votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Wickland votes no.
Wickland votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator Murphy votes no.
Murphy votes nay. Senator Kunish.
Senator McEwen votes no.
McEwen votes nay. Senator Kunish.
And Senator Port votes no.
Port votes nay. Call Senator Jasinski to report members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Kunish, or Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Gazelka votes aye.
Gazelka votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Goggin votes aye.
Goggin votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Howell votes aye.
Howell votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Limmer votes aye.
Limmer votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Benson votes aye.
Benson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Lang votes aye.
Lang votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Eichhorn votes aye.
Eichhorn votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
And thank you, Mr. President and members. My dear friend, Senator Tomassoni votes aye.
Tomassoni votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Housley votes aye.
Housley votes aye. All members having voted, the secretary will close the roll. There being 39 ayes and 28 nays, House File 3872, as amended, does pass in its title agreed to. Senator Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for a brief recess for the purpose of appointing conference committees.
To that motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. Senate's recess.
House File number 4293. Senators Kiffmeyer, Newman, Howe, Jasinski, and Dibble. House File number 4366. Senators Westrom, Draheim, Dornick, Pratt, and Dietzick. Senator Miller moves that the foregoing appointments be approved.
To that motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. Moving to the 13th order of business, announcements. Members, if you will indulge the president just for a few minutes, I won't go into a long discussion. Members? Oh, Senator Chamberlain first.
I appreciate that, Mr. President. Hey, K-12 will meet at 3:15 if you happen to be done by that time. 3:15.
Senator Chamberlain, don't tempt me. But seriously, Senator Bach.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Capital Investment will meet at 3:15 in room 15 here in the Capitol.
So, members, yesterday, I've already termed it as an event, occurred on the Senate floor. I think in many ways it was a wound on the body. I think we've started to heal that wound today. I think you saw it in the discussion that we had amongst ourselves. We had heated debates. Some get rather heated. But I think it is important to note sections of our rules. And our rules are here for a reason, that we, as a Senate, have worked under these rules for a very long period of time. We have three different sets of rules for those of you who aren't terribly familiar. We have customs and usage, we have Senate rule, the Senate rule book, and we have Masons. Under customs and usage, we have traditionally allowed members to address other members by their name. In Masons, there's actually a reference that you're supposed to reference them by, like the other body talks about the member from Isanti or something to that effect. But by customs and usage, we really do tend to speak to each other through our names. So I wanted to address that point. In rules, I just want to go over a couple of different things. And under Rule 3610, when a member is called to order, the member shall be silent until it is determined whether or not the member is in order. If a member is called to order for words spoken in debate, the words accepted to must be taken down in writing by the secretary immediately. So where I'm going at here is that we have decorum. And in the president's opinion, there was a breach of decorum yesterday, a pretty serious one. There are members that came and spoke to me afterwards. I appreciate their comments. I think there were some people that came and spoke with members of the front desk, and I appreciate that. I've had private conversations with both caucuses and both caucus leaders. I did want to go over a couple other things in Chapter 11 of Masons. Under 101.1, debate is confined to the question before the body. And under Chapter 13, there's a couple sections I wanted to reference. Under Chapter 13, Section 120, Number 5, if at any time the presiding officer rises to state a point of order or give information or otherwise speak within the presiding officer's privilege, the member speaking must sit down until the presiding officer has been heard. And also, under Section 124, the debate of a member must confine remarks to the question before the House and avoid personalities. So what I'm speaking to is how I broke my gavel yesterday. That cannot happen again, either side. That cannot happen. When a member rises to a point of order, the person speaking must suspend. That's in rules. Those are the rules we live by. Now, I think we all have to respect individuals' right to speak. I think that interrupting members can be very problematic. And I can understand how people would be very frustrated if they were interrupted, especially if they're in a very passionate speech about something. But as president, when a member rises to a point of order, I have to deal with the situation. I cannot ignore it. I cannot ignore the rules. So when that happens, you must suspend your speech. That's the end of it. So I hope we can continue through this session the way we did today, which was respectful, heated, passionate, that we will try to avoid perhaps interrupting individuals. I think there's been discussion, or you've heard from me about how to bring an amendment to the floor. There certainly is today. There was an example of some ramp-up time before you got to an amendment. Perfectly in order. I think the point, though, being is if you're going to speak to the amendment, you tend to want to have the amendment on the floor so you can speak to it. And it's a very gray area. And I tend to give people a lot of latitude. But what happened yesterday cannot happen again. And I would respectfully ask that, I know the individual is not here today. I'm not going to point out anything further. I would hope that that individual will consider what happened and speak to the body. This isn't about me. This isn't about any particular person. This is about the decorum and traditions of this body. And I would hope this would start and maybe very soon heal the wound that was presented and inflicted to the body yesterday. Thank you, members. Any additional announcements? Senator Miller.
Well, Mr. President and members, I hope you'll give me just a little bit of leeway because today is a very special day. It's my mom's birthday. And it's not very often we get to wish our mom a happy birthday on live TV, assuming that the TVs are still going here. So, Mom, happy birthday. Several of you asked if I called her. Yes, of course, I called my mom today and wished her a happy birthday. I don't think she's watching right now, though, because she told me she's getting ready for a garage sale. So she's probably not watching. And for those of you who are wondering, she was 29 years old every year until I turned 29. Then she turned 39. And this year, I also turned 39, so she's no longer 39. So, Mom, happy 49th birthday. With that, members, Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Thursday, May 5th at 11 a.m.
To that motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion does prevail. Senate is adjourned.